I will be reciting, for those of you who are not Muslim, I will be reciting the opening. It is called the Fatiha in Arabic. It is the first chapter of the Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Before reciting the Quran, I said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed Satan. And then I said, I begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most compassionate. I said, all praise is due to Allah and to Allah alone. Nothing created is worthy of worship except Allah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of all worlds, the seen and the unseen world. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. This God, this one God, is the most merciful. He is the merciful and the compassionate. Maliki Yawmiddin. He is the ruler of the day of judgment. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. The only do we worship, and the only do we ask for help. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Show us the straight path, the path of those who have earned your favor. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim wala dhalin. Not the path of those who have earned your wrath, who have gone astray. Alhamdulillah. I was asked to tell you just a little bit about myself this evening, and also to introduce Sheikh Yusuf. And I want to give a special thanks to our non-Muslims who are visiting with us tonight. Contrary to what the media would have you think, Islam has a rich history of inviting, respecting, and protecting non-Muslims. And we continue that rich history today. The word community could not and would not exist without the suffix unity. So tonight we celebrate uniting with our Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Native Americans, and all other religions I have not named, to increase a wholesome understanding of Islam and each other. From the age of 10, I began preaching in the Christian ministry, playing the piano and singing Southern gospel music. My late grandmother told me that I was praying before I started walking. My grandfather had a heart attack when I was very, very young, and I do remember kneeling in my crib and praying for my grandfather. I, like Sheikh Yusuf, had an inquiring mind. I loved God with all my heart, my mind, my soul, and my strength. And nothing was more important to me than pleasing my Creator. And I knew innately that I had been born to serve Him. During church one day, I looked up at my grandmother and I said, I'm a Southern boy, so we call her Granny. I said, Granny, God must be very upset today. She looked at me puzzled and said, "Well, why are you saying that?" And I said, "Because all the songs we were singing are about Jesus, and we haven't sung anything about God yet." And he said he's a jealous God. To that, my blessed grandmother looked down at me and said, "You know, son, there's a lot of things I don't understand either." At the age of 12, I had read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, from cover to cover. And in that reading, I had not discovered a word called Trinity. I was a nightmare to my minister growing up. He sort of, when he saw me coming, he sort of wanted me going the other way. At the age of 12, I made an appointment with him, and I said, "Reverend White, I've read this Bible now from Genesis to Revelation, and I can't find this word Trinity." He said, "The reason you can't find it is because it's not there." He was very understanding. He tried to encourage me. He was very patient and very tolerant. He said, "Keep searching." So I did. I went to the library at school, took the Encyclopedia Britannica, and guess what I looked up? The word Trinity. And I found a phenomenal truth there. And of course, I went back to my minister and shared with him what I found. Believe it or not, he was still very happy and very patient with me. At the age of 15, I went to Lee College. I was beginning to study because I had every intention to be another Billy Graham, to be a great evangelist, because that's all I knew. Whilst I was at Bible college, I learned about the canonizing of the King James Bible. I was so distraught. It truly broke my spirit. And I almost had a nervous breakdown. I had to be put on medication because I had searched for the truth and I had not found it. At the age of 17, I was offered a full scholarship to Duke University, to divinity school. I had planned to complete my high school classes in 3 years so that I could go straight into seminary. After learning what I learned about the Trinity, I could no longer say the Apostles' Creed, and I had to refuse the scholarship. My integrity would not allow me to accept that scholarship. But I held on to one scripture in the Bible, 1 John 1:9. It says, "If you continue in my word, then are you my disciples, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." But I was not free because I did not have the truth. All the pieces of the puzzle did not fit together. The longer I searched, the more in bondage I became. In 1980, I decided to run away from the church. And I didn't just run away from North Carolina to Florida. I went to South Africa. I said, "I'm out of here." The last Sunday I was in America, I preached in a Baptist church. I went to South Africa leaving my Bible behind. I decided that in South Africa I would do human potential movement. I would try to see to it that apartheid was ended. And I would help people. But I couldn't teach because I didn't have all the answers. I arrived in South Africa very late. And my host said, "I know you're hungry." Took me to one of those sort of 24-hour places to get something to eat. And on my way to where I was going to stay, I heard this man yelling from Table Mountain, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!" I said, "What is that?" He said, "That's the adhan." He said, "Those crazy Muslims, they do that from morning to night, 5 times a day." I said, "That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. I could feel it in my heart." He said, "Well, you're going to get plenty of it." He said, you won't like it so much after a couple of days because they do it right up here and it's going to wake you up every morning. He also said, now let me warn you about those Muslims. He said, they all lie and they all steal. Well, I had to prove him wrong, and I did. But you know what's the sad part? I lived in that country for over 5 years, and nobody ever invited me into a masjid. I was searching. I was begging for people to teach me about Islam, and nobody ever invited me. So the reason I'm saying that to my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, don't ever let it be said that you will have somebody hanging around your neck on the day of judgment because you didn't invite them and they were searching. This is an event of da'wah, which means to invite. If I hold a gun to my brother's head and say, come on, you're going with me, that's not an invitation. But tonight we're about an invitation. We want to make sure that you know that the door is wide open for you to come to Islam. In 1985, my parents divorced and separated after 33 years of marriage, and my only brother died of an overdose of drugs. I was distraught, and I returned to America for a short time and back to South Africa. I decided, well, I can't get this thing right. God has not given me the truth. I'm not free. So I'm going to go and be a soul doctor. I'm going to go back to America, get my PhD in clinical social work or psychology, and I'm going to be a psychiatrist. And I came back to America with $1,200. I was earning in the top 5% of the country when I left. Started over with $1,200 in Los Angeles. And if anybody here knows anything about Los Angeles, $1,200 won't last you but about 3 weeks. And that's if you're real frugal. Allah blessed me with a wonderful wife. I was working in a store one day, and a man came to me and said, you lived in Africa, right? I said, South Africa, yes. He said, well, there's a man from Ghana that I want you to meet. I said, do you know how far Ghana is from South Africa? You know, it's not like we're going to be swinging in the same trees together or riding on the same elephant. You know, it's sad, but really, I'm in America, so I'm allowed to say this. Everybody, when I used to tell them that I lived in South Africa, they thought I lived in the jungle. They didn't understand that's where the first heart transplant took place, and that there were some actually bright people there, and computer technology, and telephones, and light switches. Alhamdulillah. Light switch. I met this man from Ghana, and when I met him, I had been meditating and praying and asking Allah, God at the time, to lead me to the truth. I had decided that I would work and make a living and go home and meditate until I found my truth, because I couldn't marry until I found my truth. I knew that God had shown me the woman that He wanted me to marry, and now I'm with her today, 20 years. But I couldn't marry her until faith could be the cornerstone of that relationship. Anyway, when I went to see this man from Ghana, I said to him, God has led me to you. I don't know what your religion is, but I'm supposed to be it. He said, no. I'm not trying to get anybody in religion. I'm a psychologist. I said, you might not be trying to get me in your religion, but I'm trying to get there. I hounded that man for 3 months. And finally, after 3 months, he gave me a little book called Elementary Teachings to Islam. And I came back and I said, when can I do my shahada? He said, there's no compulsion in our religion. I said, I'm not trying to be compelled. I've been asking you for 3 months. I want to be a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guided me to the truth. And He called me to Islam. I knew that in order for me to be the best da'i, the best servant to my ummah and for my Lord, I had to educate myself. I was working in California by that time, was earning about $70,000 a year. And I said to my wife one day, you know what, this is strange, but I feel so strongly that Allah wants me to go to North Carolina. And a prophet is not on earth in the same town was what they said about Jesus, Esau and Salam. I said, I don't want to go back to my same town where I was a preacher and then, wear a jalabia and tell people I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, all this stuff. And lo and behold, the business I was running got sold. And I said to my wife one time, I feel like Jonah. God told him to go to Nineveh. He said, I don't want to go to Nineveh. So he had him swallowed by a big fish and vomited up on the shore. Well, Allah was kind to me because I didn't get vomited up, but I did go back. When I got to North Carolina, I couldn't find a living that was comparable to the living that I've been making. And another thing happened. My mother said, if you're coming back here and you want my support, you have to change your name. You can't be Abdul Rahman anymore. I said, then I don't need your support. I love you, and because of my religion, I will always be good to you, because that's what my religion teaches. But I'm not going to be sold. I've been searching all my life for the truth, and now I have it, and I'm not for sale. I called my father, and I said, Dad, I need some help. We were going to stay with Mom for a while, and we're no longer invited. He said, call me back in 2 hours. I called him back. He had us an apartment. He found us an apartment. The lady that ran those apartments, I had played the piano for her when I was a pianist and southern musician. She said, we'd love to have him. My dad said, I can't pronounce his name. It's Abdul Rahman or something like that. But anyway, I call him Abdul. So we went to North Carolina. And they did a whole big page in the newspaper about me coming back to Wallace, North Carolina, a little town of 6,000. Had a picture of all my children and my Zal, my wife. And you can believe that stirred a lot of energy, a lot of opportunity to share Islam with people. Well, this lady that ran these apartments said to me one day, Abdul, why don't you go back to school? I said, are you crazy? I got 4 children, 3 children at the time, and a wife, and no money. She said, well, let me tell you a secret. She said, these apartments are owned by the Farmers Association of America, and they want to invest in North Carolinians. So if you go to school, we'll pay your rent and 2/3 of your light bill. I said, what am I going to do, be an indentured servant for the rest of my life? She said, there's no catch. It's for real. I said to my wife, I know I'm supposed to be here. I don't know why yet. I went to register for school. I was wearing not this kufi, but one like it. An inmate was standing at the Duplin County Correctional Facility. He told another inmate who was on work release, tell that man with the white hat to come and see us. I'm walking on campus minding my business, and this guy comes and says, hey dude, there's some Muslims over there that want you to come to see. I said, I don't know anybody in jail. He said, well, they want you to come. I started crying. I knew right then why Allah wanted me to go to North Carolina. I said to this young man, go bring me a list of those people and who I need to speak to. The very next day, I met with the warden of that prison. He said, I'd like you to be our imam tomorrow. I said, do what? Tomorrow? I said, I'm green at this thing. I'm not qualified. He said, will you be our imam or not? 5 years. I was at the Duplin County Correctional Facility. I want to try to shorten this. Sheikh Yusuf doesn't know this, but he's very instrumental in my being where I am today. After I completed my education, the North Carolina Department of Corrections said, we want you to be the first institution-based imam in the state of North Carolina. And guess what? I was. The New York Department of Correction tried to get me to come to work for them. And I didn't want to go to New York because I'm not a polar bear. I don't like the cold. But they were having a conference in Arlington, Virginia. They were Springfield. Thank you, brother. And they wanted me to go to this conference. And I said, listen, I've been working for 5 years as an imam for less than $27,000 a year. I got 4 children and a wife. I can't go. Sheikh Yusuf said, brother, if you can get here, I'll find you a place to stay. That was not a first for Sheikh Yusuf. Taking people in is the way he became a Muslim. Sheikh Yusuf was a Christian musician and minister. We had a lot in common, except he became a Muslim in 88, I became a Muslim in 87, and I think he's just a few years older than me. That's supposed to be funny. He was a very typical American. He'd been married a few times and divorced at least once. Right, brother? Go ahead. A man like I, who had been from rags to riches monetarily, we had enjoyed the company of kings and paupers alike, but something was missing in our lives. Do you know how hard it is for a 50-year-old man to change? I'm 46 and I know how hard it is.
Wait till you get to 60.
You see, Sheikh Yusuf was working with his father, who was also an ordained minister, in a witnessing center that was disguised as a consignment shop. They called it a consignment shop.
What do you know about that?
I do my homework, brother. You told me to do that. So they had this consignment shop, and Sheikh Yusuf's father said, Jim, I want you to meet this Egyptian man. Sheikh Yusuf, I don't want to meet no Egyptian terrorist. His father said, I want you to meet him. He was studying to be a missionary at the time. And so he said, well, I'm going to meet him under my terms, Dad. He has to meet me at church on Sunday. So he invited him to church, and he was convinced that he was going to make a Christian out of him. You see, Sheikh Yusuf was a da'i before he became a Muslim. He was trying to get everybody to be a Christian before he ever came into Islam. Not only did he invite the Egyptian Muslim, he invited his Irish priest friend, Pete. That was his name, right, brother?
Father Peter.
Father Peter. One day, when Sheikh Yusuf asked Muhammad, that was your Egyptian friend, right? What his religion taught about God, they were in the car, and Muhammad recited to him Surah Ikhlas. And Sheikh Yusuf had what we used to call in the Baptist days the Holy Ghost goosebumps. That means you feel something, you get goosebumps, you know. He was moved. He still wanted to see how he could bring this man to Islam, and he also wanted to find out how he could bring maybe Islam into Christianity. If he couldn't bring the man, at least he could bring his ideas. One morning, Father Pete went to the masjid with Muhammad. The next day he went to the masjid and he came back and he walked in with a jalabiyah on, saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I declare that there is no God but Allah and His messenger is Muhammad. Sheikh Yusuf became angry because he wanted to embrace Islam first. Here the Catholic priest had embraced Islam. He wanted to be first. He couldn't sleep that night. The next morning he went out behind the barn. I bet when he grew up he went behind the barn. It was for something else besides prayer. He didn't hear that. But he went behind the barn and he got on a piece of plywood and he put his head on the ground and he called on Allah. And he went inside the house and he did his shahada. Now, today, he's all over the country inviting people to Islam. When I went to Springfield, Virginia to visit Sheikh Yusuf, he said to me, brother, the Al-Rahmah Foundation in England is going to give 5 scholarships for imams in the prison system. I said, are you crazy? They're not going to give me a scholarship. I'm a white man. I'm a white man and a Muslim, and they're going to give me it? He said, look, brother, I just want you to apply. I applied and I got the scholarship. There were 3 people out of 60 that qualified for this scholarship. And I lost a pound, but Allah blessed me to be one of them. So I commuted from North Carolina to Virginia every week, and then from Florida to Virginia until I got my master's in Islamic social science. I am now one of 10 imams employed by the United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons, and I do dawah work every time I get an invitation, if I don't already have an invitation. Without further ado, I will introduce a man of hospitality who has invited many, not into his home, but into his heart, and most importantly, to his land. Sheikh Yusuf, please come to the podium.
بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ما بعد. You're watching Islam tomorrow, and we're broadcasting live today from Orlando, and that's where we're at. The name of this building is Gizmo or something like that. What's the name of this place? Gizmo Hotel. Next time I want it to be Holiday or Hilton because I can spell it. Anyway, alhamdulillah, you found it, and that's all that counts. Everybody's here. Anybody, by the way, I want to just get a roll call real fast. Do we have any Muslims with us today? Raise your hand. Whoa. Mr. Cameraman, would you please turn the camera and show the people out there? Let's get a look on the... yeah, there we go. Whoa. Some of these people are Muslims. Whoa, what's going on with that? Now, while we're at it, do we have any non-Muslims with us today? Raise your hand. Not Muslim yet. Raise your hand up there. There we go. How do you feel being surrounded by all these terrorists? All right. And while we're doing the roll call, is there anybody that's not here? Raise your hand. All right. Well, that's good for the kid programs anyway. This is your host, Yusuf Estes. I'm not the host tonight, am I? I'm used to being the host of my TV show.
You're the keynote speaker.
I'm the keynote speaker. All right, whatever that is. I'm here, and inshallah, God willing, this program will be broadcast through our website facilities and on our regular broadcast programs in the future. So if you want to catch that, it's time for commercial, by the way. You can catch our website at islamtomorrow.com, islamtomorrow.com. And our website's open 24 hours a day, and always plenty of free parking. By the way, it would really help if you'll laugh harder at these dumb jokes. Gets us through the program a lot faster. I always enjoy listening to our brother Abdurrahman Sykes speak, because he can put more emotion in 5 seconds worth of speech than some people do in their whole life. And he runs the gamut of everything, from laughter to crying to everything when he speaks, because he's got that, we call it in Arabic, ikhlas. And it's got that sincerity, and it's beautiful. And I asked Allah to make all of us this way. It's actually a subject tonight that we wanted to talk about was the family, the role of the family and being a Muslim family in the West, especially now. But after that great introduction you did about sharing Islam, I feel like I just want to turn the corner here and bring it back to the subject of inviting people to Islam and the value of that. But I'm going to stay on our topic because that is what most of you came out here about. But before I leave that subject, I do want to touch on it. On our website, we talk about it a lot. But for sure, I feel sorry for the people who, like Abdul Rahman, that were looking for Islam, searching, begging somebody to help them, and nobody responding. I hope we're not going to be like that. At the end of this program, when we finish up, instead of me talking about the dawah tonight and inviting to Islam, what we're going to do is offer something for you. It's up there on the screen over there. It says 135 people make Shahada. Some of you may have seen it as it was running in the beginning. It's a PowerPoint presentation on part 2 and a lecture on part 1. At the end of the part 2, you'll see 135 people stand up at the University of Mexicali all at one time. So what we're going to do is a 2-part. They'll be out there after the program. They won't be available until after the program. So if you can stick it out to the end of this, then you can pick one of them up. One per family, please. And they're not for sale. If you donate anything, then that's, to help us do more work, and we hope you will do that. But there's 2 separate subjects. And you may copy them. In fact, we're asking you, please copy them and give them to anybody who wasn't able to get one tonight, because there are not enough. I know that already. There are also some audios talking on the similar subject of inviting to Islam, and we're going to talk about that in other programs we've got coming up online. You can check that out tonight. And now let's focus on this program. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Hujurat, this is in the Quran in chapter 49. He tells us that He created one soul, which is Adam. And from Adam He created the mate. And from these 2 He brought forth all the nations. And He brought us forth and made us look different. We appear different to each other. He said so we could recognize each other. It's very beautiful. Sums it up real fast. By the way, this is not really that much different than what we find in the Old Testament for the Jewish, and what we find in the New Testament for the Christians. That we all came from Adam and Eve. For the benefit of those who don't know a lot about Islam, it's only fair before we start talk about any aspect, whether it's the family, whether it's talking about wives and children, or whether we're talking about worship. First thing is, and most important, to know what Islam actually means. It's not really a religion. And I say that because actually the words, if you go to the Mawrid, or the dictionary in Arabic language, and you look up the word Islam, you'll find that it's actually a verb. Man-made religions traditionally are named after nouns, person, place, or thing. Islam comes from a root in the Arabic, Lugha Arabiya, which is Sin Lam Mim. And it means 5 things in English: surrender, submission, obedience, purity or sincerity, and peace. So Islam is not peace. It contains peace, but it is not peace. And that's very clear. Anybody that knows even one Muslim, you know better, because when Muslims give the greeting, we say Salam alaikum, not Islam alaikum. Therefore, we know right away that salam is peace, but what is Islam? And so that's what we find, that it means surrendering your will to God, to Allah, obeying His commandments and being in total submission to what He wants you to do all the time, and doing it for His sake alone, and doing it in peace. And if a person can't do that, then that's not Islam. And what is a Muslim? Well, it's simple. If somebody runs, we call him a runner. And if somebody walks, we call him a walker. And if somebody speaks, we call him a speaker. And if somebody thinks, we call him a thinker. And if somebody cheats, we call him a politician. Oh, wait. Sorry. I did pretty good on that back. About 3 on the Richter scale. I did it up. In the Arabic, instead of using these suffixes, which is er after the verb to show the one performing it, Arabic uses a prefix min or mu. So when somebody is giving the adhan, which you heard our brother Imam Abdul Rahman cites several times, Allahu Akbar, that's called the adhan. Whoever does adhan is not an adhaner, that's English. He's a mu'adhan. Mu'adhan. Whoever makes worship, sali, when you see us stand like this, is sali for salat. He's musali. And if somebody is speaker, we call him Mutakalam. Takalam, mutakalam. Hear the mu in front of it? If he's a traveler, suffer, he's musafir. And I travel a lot, and I tell you, we do suffer when you but anyway. But our word in English is not suffer. Our word in English is safari. That does come from the Arabic word suffer. I mention this to help those who don't understand what is a Muslim. A Muslim simply is the one doing this. Whoever's in submission, surrender, obedience, sincerity, and peace with Almighty Allah, with Almighty God, then they're a Muslim whether they know Arabic or not, whether they know the Quran or not. And it is what the prophets taught the people. You find it in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the New Testament. You find it real clear. Are there 10 commandments in the Bible, at least? If you look in Leviticus, you wind up with a lot more than 10. Things like, well, how many hundred do you know? Hundreds of commandments. But in any case, I'm sure every Christian and every Jew knows that there's at least 10 commandments. Is that right? Right? They're not suggestions. And if you're going to follow commandments, it means you obey. First commandment is what? It says something like, I am the Lord your God that brought you out of the house of bondage, the land of Egypt. You know no other God beside me. Thou shalt not have any other God beside me. Second commandment's real similar. You know what it says? It says, thou shalt not make unto me any graven image of anything that creeps upon the earth, swims in the sea beneath, or flies in the air above, the sky above. It's kind of funny. I was in a church once, and I was reading this. And I looked up at the church and said, this is amazing. I'm looking at a man on a cross. This is something which creeps on the ground, right? Then they had remember when they used to use the fish? It had a fish right on the front of the podium, right there. A fish, something from the sea. And then the stained glass window behind it had a dove. I said, boy, they didn't miss a thing. Got all of it. Oops. But my purpose to be here isn't to make fun of anybody. I'm just saying we're human beings. We do weird stuff. All of us do. Third commandment tells them, and usually about here I ask somebody, what's the third commandment? After I name the first two, they go, thou shalt not kill. No. It says, don't take the Lord thy God's name in vain. What's number 4? Thou shalt not kill. No. Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. By the way, while we're on the subject, Sabbath in the Hebrew and in the Arabic is the same language, by the way. They're Semitic languages. What is Sabbath? 7. And it starts at sundown. That means right now it's Sabbath. Did you know that? Friday night is Sabbath. The Sabbath. Think about that. Isn't that when the Jews start? When the sun goes down? How many of you know what tonight is? Anybody? Huh? No, Yom Kippur. Yom. Yom means what? Day. It's the same word in Arabic, isn't it? Only instead of Yom Tawbah, it's called Yom Kippur. Day of what? Atonement. That's tonight. Did you know that? You have to know everything. You're a child. So, okay, what's number 5? Thou shalt not kill. Nope. What is number 5? Anybody know? You shall honor your parents, your mother and your father. Now, I led all the way up to that just to get to the point about the family. Because guess what? I looked in the Quran, I found the same exact thing. It talks about number 1, always worship God without any partners. Obedience to Him and not something else. It goes down telling you about this, and then it tells you about your family. And tells you, in this case, don't kill your children for fear that they're going to share your food with you. Don't kill your children because you're afraid you're not going to have enough to feed them. It's a very strong verse for those that like to support the idea of no abortion. What is the opposite of abortion instead of what?
Freedom to right to life.
Right to life. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, What I'm saying is that Islam is talking, just as the Christian and the Jewish religion, talking about the subject of the family. In Islam, though, what is the most important? The child or the parent? We heard about this, the parent subject, just a minute ago. In the Christian religion, the Jewish religion, parents come right immediately after the Sabbath day. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was asked, after Allah and His Messenger, who has the most rights on me? He responded, your mother. They said, and then who? He said, your mother. He said, and then your mother, and then your father. This is a very famous hadith. And in fact, it's more famous for the ladies than it is the men. But anyway, it's very famous. They're always reminding us about this. But also, wives. What's the role of the wives in Islam? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us real clear that they have rights, because the women didn't have any rights in those years. In fact, at that time, they didn't have rights. But it tells that they have the same rights as the men. They have rights way back. Contrary to what you read in some raggy newspapers, Islam established the first women's rights for any nation. There were no laws on any books about women's rights until Islam came. And it very clearly states that the women have these rights. It gives two different roles for jobs, though. Islam is very clear about what women do and what men do. It says that women have babies, not men. Now today, some guys are trying to change that. Amongst other things that they're trying to change. Can you spell weird? Whoa! But in any case, I'm not real popular with those folks, by the way. But that's okay. I heard Jimmy Swaggart is not real popular with them, too. I'm saying this because some people don't realize what is the role in Islam of the family. It's a very important role. As a matter of fact, if you don't have family, what do you have? You know, I know in our society here, a lot of kids can't wait till they're 18 so they can tell their parents where to get off. They can't wait until they're old enough to tell their parents to take a hike. And this is amazing. That's very amazing, because the people who raised you up when you couldn't do anything, the people who stayed by you when you were screaming and hollering and didn't smell so good, and they stayed with you. In fact, they were praising that. Oh, look what he made. You take it. I don't want it. But it's true. It's very true if you stop and think about it. It's the parents. They're the ones that without them, what will we have? And yet in our society, we throw them away. We turn our back on them very quickly, and especially when they get old. I witnessed this in my own family several times. When people come elderly, send them down to Florida in an old folks' home. Yeah? Even I heard them say things like, I put up with them long enough. Let somebody else. Put up with? I've been in Muslim countries, and I've seen some amazing things that people would never take their family and throw them away when they get old. Even when they're totally incompetent, they can't do anything anymore. They can't take care of themselves. They're just like the baby, practically. But Muslims are not going to throw them away like that. Because Islam teaches you get honor, you get reward with Allah, high status. Allah can forgive you for a lot of mistakes because of taking care of these parents when they get old. And by the way, it is a commandment in the Quran that you take care of your parents. Very clear. But how can we get these kind of values when we watch a television that gives us the opposite? I was talking with a friend of mine some years ago about what happened to the American society. Where did it start to deteriorate to bring us to this low level where we are now? That was 1970, by the way. You know what he told me? He told me that it started way back in the 1930s. He said when the cartoons and the newspapers picked up a cartoon called Blondie, Dagwood and Blondie, they said because it always shows the husband as a fool, somebody to make fun of, a joke. Because if this is the role of the father, then you can break down the family real quick. Make fun of the father, cut him down, he's nobody, what a loser. Kids pick that up real fast. But as soon as you do that, immediately, where is the mother? Because if he's a loser, she's married to a what? A loser. It's not smart ever for you to say something negative about your family, like your mother, for instance. If you cut down your mother and you cut down your father, what are you saying about yourself? You're the fruit of that tree. It's not very smart when you say, you know what I'm made out of? And you start cutting it down. That doesn't make any sense. And if you say, well, I'm married to her and she's nothing, you're like the guy who's the big boss, big shot. He said, I'm boss and you're nothing. And he turns to him and he says, yeah, it makes you boss over nothing, doesn't it? Stop and think what you're doing when you cut people down. And by the way, it's very forbidden in Islam to ever do that. Same surah, same chapter. I call it the chapter of family life in Islam. Go to chapter 49 of the Quran and read it. It's not that long, like 26 verses, something like that, 19, I don't remember. Short, really short. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, you got it right over here. He tells us in here about an amazing subject. About not just family, but people in general. When he talks about don't let a group of people cut down another group, it's real clear about that one. Let's see, X. This has got Roman numerals in it. Somebody should have told him about Arabic numbers. Wait a minute, I know what it is. It's like right before L. L is 50, right? It'll be before the L. Okay. Here we go. They call it the apartment. Inner apartments is what they call it. This is it right here. And it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun. O you who believe, if a sinner comes to you with any news, ascertain the truth, lest you harm people unwittingly and afterwards become full of repentance for what you've done. This is about spreading gossip and lies. So this is very important in Islam. Of course, after you read this, you couldn't be a journalist or work for CNN. It goes on and it says, verse 11, O you who believe, do not let some men of you laugh at others. It may be that the latter are better than the former. And don't let some of the women make fun of others. It may be that the latter are better than the others. Don't defame each other. Don't be sarcastic and call each other names, nicknames. This is ill-seeming. And it uses the expression, after you've come to believe. And those who don't stop this are wrongdoers. It goes on to warn us about being suspicious about things. And then it comes to the verse that I quoted to you. Ya ayyuhan nasu, O you mankind, Allah created you from a single pair, a male and a female, made you into nation and tribes that you know each other. Verily the most honor to you in the sight of Allah is the one who is most righteous. Allah has full knowledge and well acquainted with what you do. It's amazing. And I think it is 19 verses. 17 verses, just in case you want to read it. It's short, but it's very, very potent to read what Allah has told us in this Surah Al-Hujurat. Very potent. Because dealing with family, dealing with community, and being a Muslim today really isn't any different than it ever was. It's just we forgot it. But if you're taking your information from the television and saying this is Islam, that's amazing. If you're reading Time Magazine, by the way, how many of you know Time Magazine and CNN are owned by the same people? Time Warner. Who owns Time Warner? AOL, American Airlines. All of this have one opinion. You think you're watching different opinions. You know what? You're not. You're seeing the same opinion coming from different mouths. That's all you're doing. But Islam is not like what people are saying. And regardless of what some people claim to be Muslims and do, it doesn't reflect Islam, it reflects them and their agenda. I heard the President of the United States say, and he was quoting about some of the Shiites down in Iraq, and he said they hate freedom. I've met some Shiites, by the way. I never met one that hated freedom. I never did. In fact, in my whole life, and I've been working in prison ministries for a lot of years, I never met a human being that hated freedom. Did you? Have anybody in this room met somebody that hated freedom? Oh. We just need to get Mr. Bush to tell us who that is. Everybody I know wants freedom. Just like everybody I know wants peace. Some people have a strange way of trying to go after it. I'll admit that. But still, to say that somebody hates peace, hates freedom, this doesn't reflect something good. I want to get back on the subject about the family, though. What are the rights of the woman in Islam? And let's deal with that one real quick. Allah says in the Quran in chapter 4, verse 34. Verse 19 is when He tells you can't marry them against their will, by the way. You can't inherit them against their will. But in verse 34, He says, Allah tells us, the role of the man is to do what? It says that the men are responsible for the women to be their protectors and their maintainers. Now, if somebody's a maintainer, what do you call that? Is that a king? A maintainer is a king? I don't think so. It's like somebody what? Cleaning the yard, taking care of stuff. A maintainer is like a custodian, huh? Okay. Well, it is a maintainer. He has to provide. He's the one working to provide for the lady. And what about a protector?
The maintenance man.
Maintenance man, you get it. Trust me, I know about it. Every time, I'm not home very much. When I hit the door, as soon as I get home, my wife gives me a honey do this. Honey do this, honey do that, honey do that. I told her, I said, you know one of the things I'm going to be happy about gender, don't you? She said, what's that? I said, no toolbox. So that's one of the jobs. The other one is protector. Protectors are not kings, by the way. Protectors are not kings. Protectors are guards. Usually low-level guys that are expendable. Really. Kings hide behind guards. Queens hide behind the guards. But Islam very clearly states this. It's in the Quran. The men are the maintainers and the protectors of the women. And it didn't say wives. There's different words in Arabic. If you know the Arabic, you can read it. It's very detailed. It's not a question mark. It's not saying human being, because in English we say man, could be mankind, it could be... No, it said the males are responsible for the females to provide them with protection and maintenance. Food, shelter, everything. Man has to do that. It's not optional. I recall one of my dear friends asked me one time, he asked me to come to his house, we had dinner, and he said, we have a question. He had his family there and everything. He said, what percentage should my wife be paying toward the upkeep, the house money, all the stuff where this and this and that? There's a lot of stuff. He said, what should be her percentage? I said, what do you think it is? And she said something like 25%. He's going, no, it ought to be 50. I said, really? Islam teaches you 0%. In Islam, a she gets a percentage of the husband's money and all of her own. It's called, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. Like this situation. If a woman inherits $50 million, $50 million, and her husband just lost his job, how much does she have to pay on the rent? You got it. Let's get some quick. I heard that was real strong for the ladies section. Actually, I heard somebody over say, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I'm sure. Also, when women get married, it's a contractual arrangement. It's not, oh, I'm in love, I'm going to check out this guy, live with him for a while, and I'm going to see how everything goes. It's not like that. Islam is real clear about that. By the way, there is no sex without marriage in Islam. It's not acceptable. It's not a joke. It's not something to play about. It's very serious, straightforward. Boys and girls don't do that until they get married. It's highly encouraged to get married at a young age. Wonder why. Anyway, for sure it is that boys and girls get married as soon as they're old enough. Now, in our culture today, that's sick. They're only 16 years old, only 18 years old. Oh, my God. I mean, he'll never get his PhD that way. And by the way, I wasn't talking about the United States. I've been in Muslim country where they have this thing that if a man has to have all these degrees before they're going to marry my daughter. Your daughter's 32 years old. Hello.